a lot of the media, especially the right-wing media, especially Fox News, et cetera, want to pretend that A, police have been defunded across the country. They never were. B, many of those cities that defunded them still have them defunded. They're not. Almost, with one or two exceptions. And C, I don't know if I started with 1 and 2 and then went to C, but I might have. I'm not sure if it was 1, 2, C or A, B, 3 or anyway. So letter F, something that has been done in the past couple of years in order to justify increased police brutality, increased funding of the largest, most brutal police force, one of the most brutal police forces on the world, for the largest prison industrial complex in the world. One of the ways to get people to support that, to get Americans to support this horrific system, is to tell us crime is everywhere, right? And if you're a Fox News viewer, or even some of the other channels, or a Newsmax viewer, or whatever the other right-wing networks are, if you view those, then you think right now, you're thinking the crime across America is worse than ever. And they just run wild. And the reason crime is running wild is because the police have been defunded. Now, about 7 different parts of that sentence, those 2 sentences, are completely false. Crime in most cities is not worse than usual. Also, crime stats can be manipulated in 100 different ways. One is you can separate the different kinds of crime and find the one that's gone up and say, property crime has gone up this year, and just harp on that one. Meanwhile, other crimes have gone down. Or you can say violent crime has gone up this year, or you can ignore it because maybe violent crime went down in your city. They can ignore the violent crime one and point to the one that went up. And so there's a million ways to manipulate that, but there's also a lot of ways to manipulate just those stats of crime in general, such as, for example, it depends a lot on what's reported. It depends on what's reported to the police and then what the police report to the FBI. So levels of crime can vary on the reporting of crime, not the actual perpetration of crime. An example of this, which I'm about to get into this one more, is shoplifting. We've been told, shoplifting's just running wild across the country. There is so much shoplifting. Well, one example of an area where, shoplifting has gone up, they've said a lot, was in San Francisco. But they also found out that some of the months that shoplifting shot up was because Target, the store Target, had started reporting far more shoplifting because it had an automatic report system. Basically, a computer system would, when the alert went off that something had been shoplifted, would automatically tell the police about it. But before there was an automatic reporting system, a lot of times stores are like, well, that guy stole a pack of cigarettes, fuck it. Or they, that maybe it could be that they, catch the person and then convince them to give back the stuff and they don't want to get the cops involved, whatever. Maybe the store employee is like, I don't want to have to talk to the cops, so they don't report it. There's a lot of reasons something might not get reported. But so that means shoplifting hadn't actually changed. There was shoplifting before, the shoplifting after. The difference was the reporting, because it was now being automatically reported by a computer system. So that's one example of how the shoplifting stats are crazy manipulated. But before I get into more of that, I want to show you one of the clips of this. One's actually interesting in a few separate ways. But so this is Fox News, and I'm not going to play the whole thing because it's 6 minutes. But let's listen to what she says.
The problem of theft is plaguing stores across the country. But in a strange twist, the nation's largest retail group is retracting a big claim that nearly half of the nearly $95 billion in missing merchandise in 2021 was because what it calls organized theft. Here's Fox News correspondent Dana Marie McNichol.
Okay, let me just point out something here. She's covering a study, which I'm also going to cover, about
the problem of
about how the numbers of shoplifting have actually been retracted. They announced this crazy amount of shoplifting, and then now they have retracted that, the source of it. But the title of this video is "Stores Close Across the U.S. Due to Shoplifting." So they're still pushing the propaganda even as they're retracting their propaganda. Also, you'll notice that her opening sentence, even though this is a story about how the numbers have been retracted, she still says shoplifting, there's a shoplifting scourge across the country. So she pushes the propaganda even while retracting the propaganda in the same in the same goddamn sentence. But so I can't show you this article because it's LA Times and it's behind a paywall, but here's some from the retraction part of it. So CLEAR is the name. It's the acronym for the committee that it's a retail committee that said that retail crime amounted to $44 billion in annual losses for retail. And they ran around, mainstream media ran around saying, oh my God, $44 billion. Holy shit, it's unbelievable, $44 billion. However, as they continue, that became the go-to figure for the toll of organized shoplifting. But as Dugan later acknowledged to the reporter Retail Dive, the specialty retail news site that originally outed the error, it had come from, so it was an error that doubled, basically over doubled the amount to 45 billion. Outed it had come from NRF's own 2016 report on shrinkage. Shrinkage is loss, is retail loss. That's the term they use. As it happens, 45 billion was the Federation's estimate of the loss in 2015 from all shrink, not just shoplifting, meaning, and you can lose money in retail in a lot of different ways. There could be employees stealing things. There could be stuff that they overbuy and then they have to get rid of it. Amazon, for example, just buries or shreds or burns billions and billions and billions of dollars of retail stuff every year. So there's a lot of reasons you could have shrink, quote unquote, and it not be theft. The NRF, the National Retail Whatever Foundation, and the co-author of the 2023 report, the corporate risk consultancy K2 Integrity, so much for integrity, evidently didn't realize that the 44 billion figure came from its own report and that it was already 8 years old and that it referred to the total shrink, not the shoplifting portion of the shrink. They simply accepted it as gospel, calculated its mathematical relationship to 94 billion, and said nearly half of all of it was injected into the publicity. Anyway, so they got the number wrong, but on top of that, it was from their own report 8 years ago. I mean, it is laughably wrong and here is Fox News actually admitting that it's been retracted, that the number's been retracted, yet the title of the video says stores closed across the U.S. due to shoplifting. So the title is still lying while they report on the retraction.